ordering it. Joya surely could have done it easily. Moiraine eyed her briefly, a reassessing look. Liandrin, Egwene said, her tone absolutely flat. Yes, I can imagine Liandrin or Joya giving that command. You did not have much longer to question them in any case, Moiraine said. They would have been ship-bound by midday tomorrow. A hint of anger touched her voice. Elaine realized Moiraine must see the Black Sisters' deaths as an escape from justice. I hope you reach some decision soon, Tanchico or the Tower. Elaine met Nynaeve's eyes and gave a slight nod. Nynaeve nodded back more assertively before turning to the Aes Sedai. Elaine and I will be going to Tanchico as soon as we can find a ship. A fast ship, I hope. Egwene and Aviendha will be going to Cold Rock's Hold in the Aiel Waste. She gave no reasons, and Moiraine's eyebrows rose. Jolien can take her, Aviendha said into the momentary silence. She avoided looking at Egwene. Or Sefella, or Bane and Chiad. I have a thought to go with Elaine and Nynaeve. If there is war in this Tanchico, they have need of a sister to watch their backs. If that is what you want, Aviendha, Egwene said slowly. She looked surprised and hurt, but no more surprised than Elaine. She had thought the two of them were becoming friends. I am glad you want to help us, Aviendha, but you should be the one to take Egwene to Cold Rock's Hold. She is going neither to Tanchico nor Cold Rock's Hold, Moiraine said, taking a letter from her pouch and unfolding the pages. This was placed in my hand an hour gone. The young Aiel man who brought it told me it was given to him a month ago before any of us reached Tyr, yet it is addressed to me by name at the Stone of Tyr. She glanced at the last sheet. Aviendha, do you know Amis of the Nine Valleys sept of the Tardad Aiel, Bear of the Hydo sept of the Sharad Aiel, Melaine of the Jirad sept of the Goshian Aiel, and Siana of the Black Cliff sept of the Nakai Aiel? They signed it. They are all wise ones, Aes Sedai. All dreamwalkers. Aviendha's stance had shifted to wariness, though she did not seem aware of it. She looked ready to fight or flee. Dreamwalkers, Moiraine mused. Perhaps that explains it. I have heard of dreamwalkers. She turned to the second page of the letter. Here is what they say about you. What they said, perhaps, before you had even decided to come to Tyr. There is among the maidens of the spear in the Stone of Tyr a willful girl called Aviendha of the Nine Valleys sept of the Tardad Aiel. She must now come to us. There can be no more waiting or excuses. We will await her on the slopes of Chaindair, above Ruidin. There is more about you, but mainly telling me that I must see you come to them without delay. They issue commands like the Amerlin, these wise ones of yours. She made a vexed sound, which brought Elaine to wonder if the wise ones had tried issuing commands to the Aes Sedai, too. Not very likely, and unlikely to be successful if tried. Still, something about that letter irritated the Aes Sedai. I am far Darais Mai, Aviendha said angrily. I do not go running like a child when someone calls my name. I will go to Tanchico if I wish. Elaine pursed her lips thoughtfully. This was something new from the Aiel woman. Not the anger. She had seen Aviendha angry before, if not quite to this degree, but the undertone. She could call it nothing but sulkiness. That seemed as unlikely as Lan being sulky, but there it was.
Very small town.
Egwene heard it too. She patted Aviendha's arm.
Oh, Hogwarts.
It's all right. If you want to go to
it wasn't
Tanchico,
too bad.
I'll be pleased that you are protecting Elaine and Nynaeve. Aviendha gave her a truly miserable look. Moiraine shook her
Played
head.
it for a little
slowly,
while, and
but
I
steadily.
ended up sending it back to
I showed this
Gamefly.
to Aviendha opened her mouth, her face irate, but the Aes Sedai raised her voice and went on smoothly. As the letter asks me to...
I have from
only
them now, I have
concerning you, of course. He seems quite
Marvel
determined
Midnight
that you will
Suns.
do as the letter asks, as it orders. I think it wisest to do as Ruark and the Wise Ones wish, Avienda. Do you not agree? Avienda stared around the room wildly, as at a trap. I am far Darais my.
Just me, I got bored with it a little bit, so I ended up sending it back.
Half raising a hand to stop her.
I might get it back again eventually. Just
what did they
want
want
to
with
try
her?
something
She
different.
demanded of Moiraine. You always know more than you let on. What are you holding back this time?
Because this
Whatever
weekend
the
I was
Wise One's
playing
reason, Moiraine said coolly. It is
the-
surely a matter between Avienda and them.
what was
If
it,
she
the
wished you to
Diablo
know,
4
she would have told you.
open beta they had for this
You
weekend.
cannot stop trying to maneuver people, Nynaeve said.
Oh shit,
bitterly.
hell yeah.
You're maneuvering
How's that?
Amanda into something now, aren't you? Not I. The Wise Ones. And
I forgot that they're coming out with a remake.
Moiraine folded the letter, returning it to her belt pouch with a touch of acerbity in her manner. She can always say no to him. A clan chief is not the same as a king, as I understand Aiel ways. Can she? Elaine asked. Ruark reminded her of Gareth Breen. The captain general of her mother's royal guards had seldom put his
Hell
foot
yeah.
down, but when he did, not even Morgaze could bring him around, short of a royal command. There was no man from the throne. Not that Morgaze had ever
I know,
issued to Gareth Breen when he had decided
excuse me
he
for a
was
second.
right, now that Elaine thought of it. And without one, she expected
9
that
out of
Aviendha
10.
was
Hell
going to
yeah.
the slopes of Chaendare, above Ruideen. At least she can journey with you, Egwene. Amis can hardly meet you at Cold Rock's Hold. If she plans to wait for Aviendha at Ruideen, you can go to Amis together. But I do not want her to, Egwene said sadly. Not if she doesn't want to. Whatever anyone wants, Nynaeve said. We have work to do. You will need many things for a trip into the Waste, Egwene.
I know,
Lan
what is
will
it,
tell me
next
what.
month?
And Elaine and I must
I'm
make
supposed to be
preparations
getting,
to sail for Tanchico.
The new Star
I
Wars
suppose we
from,
can find a ship tomorrow, but that means deciding what to pack
they're
tonight.
supposed to be coming out next month.
There is a ship
It's
of the
also
Aka
coming from
Anriere at
Gamefly.
the docks in the mall.
That's the good thing about
Moiraine told
Gamefly. You gotta get
Oh,
games,
later.
try them out.
There are no ships faster.
If I like them, I
You
get
did want
option
fast
to
ship. Nynaeve
purchase
gave a
them at a
grudging nod.
discounted price.
Moiraine,
And once I
Elaine
purchase it,
said,
they'll send me my
what is Rand
the
going
game
to do
case
now?
and all.
After this attack,
And if it's a special
will he
edition
start the
game
war you want?
with
I
the
do not
along
want
with
a
the
war,
case,
the
'cause
Aes
they
Sedai
send you the
replied.
case and whatnot. But it
I
also
want
comes with
what will see him alive
if the
to
game
fight
came with
Tom
any
and Gaia.
promo codes,
He says he will tell us all
they'll
what he
send that
wants
with
to
it
do
too.
tomorrow.
So you get
The
those promo
smallest
codes
frown
in the
creased
special
her smooth
edition,
forehead.
which I
Tomorrow
think's
we
pretty
will all
cool.
know more than we do tonight.
It's about
Her
dab
departure was
time.
abrupt. Tomorrow, Elaine thought.
So
What
you
will
can
he
see the
do
dab I
when I
put
tell
in there.
him? What will he say? He has to understand. Determinedly, she joined the other two
That's
to
why.
discuss their preparations.
Chapter 13.
Carb cap.
Rumors. The tavern's business rocked along. A wagon of geese and crockery careering downhill.
It's funny you
through
mentioned the
night.
Street Fighter. I actually
The battle
got
of voices fought with the musicians' offerings
the
on
new
3
Street
assorted
Fighter
drums,
coming.
2 hammered
When it comes
dulcimers, and
out,
bulbous
Gamefly's gonna be
simsia
sending that one
that
to me
produced
too.
whining trills. The serving maids
I
in
could have,
candle-length dresses with necks up to the chin and short white aprons
4 games out at a
hustled between
time.
crowded tables, holding
So I
clusters
got
of pottery mugs overhead,
in my
so they
quota
could
to
squeeze
be
through.
shipped out to me. I got
Barefoot, leather-vested
reserved,
darkmen mixed with fellows in coats
the new
tight to the
Street,
waist,
the new
bare
Street
chests,
Fighter,
broad, colorful sashes,
the new
to
Star
hold their
Wars
baggy
game,
breeches. So
and
north
also
to Dallas,
Diablo 4 when it
specimens of
comes out.
outlanders
So
were everywhere among the crowd.
pretty much on
High
release date,
collars
I'll
from the
get it
north
like
and long collars from the west.
because they'll ship it out
Silver
before the release
chains on
date.
coats
So
and bells on vests.
like
Knee-high
about the
boots,
day after the
thigh-high
release
boots,
date is when
necklaces,
it
or
usually comes in
earrings
the
on
mail.
men,
So I still get it
lace
pretty
on
much brand
coats or
new
shirts.
and a for
One
sure
man with
copy
wide
of it.
shoulders and a big belly
when it comes
had a
out.
yellow beard, and another had smeared something on his mustaches to make them glisten.
I can't wait
lamplight
till
and curl up on either side of his narrow face.
the new Tekken.
Dice rolled and tumbled in 3 corners of the room, and on a number of tabletops, silver changing hands bristled.
But
into shots and laughter.
what's that?
Matt sat
Street
alone with his
Fighter
back to
came
the wall where he
available.
could see all the doors. though mostly he
I
peered
put
into
that
a
in my,
still untouched mug of dark
in my
wine.
quota.
He did not go near the dice games, and he never glanced at the serving girl's ankles.
And what's cool about
The
GameFly,
tavern
they
so
had this new
crowded,
thing
men
called
occasionally thought to share his table,
a game lock.
but a good look at
for,
his
like,
face made them
New
sheer
releases
away,
coming
crowd
out.
onto a bench elsewhere.
That way you're guaranteed
Dipping a finger in his
to
wine,
get a
he
copy
sketched
of it
aimlessly on the tabletop.
once it gets
These fools
released.
had no idea what had happened in the
So I
store.
have the Street Fighter.
He had heard a few
on my
tyrants
game
mention some
lock.
kind of trouble.
I
with
have
words that trailed
the
off
Star
into nervous
Wars.
laughter.
And I also
They
gonna
did not
eventually
know.
have the
They did
Diablo
not
4
want
in there in the game lock too.
He almost wished he did not know himself. No, he had no idea of what had happened. The images kept flashing in his head, flashing through the
I
holes in
figure
his
it's
memory,
cheaper to
making no real sense.
pay a GameFly
Begin
subscription
fighting
than
someone at a distance,
having to buy a
for
game. That if you
Don't
buy the
walk.
game and it turns out you don't like it,
The great man's corpse with a
it's
shaky
kind of
hand,
SOL versus
and hunting him.
GameFly. Once
That
I get the game, if I don't like it or whatnot,
did not want
I
to
just send it back to them and
had
they go,
dropped the
they
shoulders
go
down.
send me what's next on my list.
And there was a Murdraw striding toward him, like a black snake on legs, its pasty-faced, eyeless stare sending shivers into his bones. At 30 paces, he hurled the knife straight at where an eye should have been. At that distance, he could hit a knot hole no larger than an eye, 4 times in 5. The fade's black sword blurred as it knocked the dagger away, almost casually. It did not even break stride. Time to die, horn sounder. Its voice was a red adder's dry hiss. Death. Matt backed away. He had a knife in either hand now, though he did not remember drawing them. Not that knives would be much good against a sword, but running them like that blade in his back as sure as 5 6s beat 4 He wished he had or a bow. He would like to see this thing try to defeat River's longbow. He wished he were somewhere else. He was going to die here. Suddenly, a dozen Trollocs roared out of a side hallway, piling onto the Fade in a frenzy of chopping axes and stabbing swords. Matt stared in amazed disbelief. The halfmen fought like a black armored whirlwind. More than half the Trollocs were dead, or lay in a twitching heap. One arm flexed and thrashed like a dying snake 2 paces away from the body, still with that black sword in its fist. A ram-horned Trolloc peered toward Matt, snout lifted to sniff the air. It snarled at him,
Be
and whined,
right back.
began licking a long gash that had laid open nail and hairy forearm. The others finished cutting the throats of their wounded, and one barked a few harsh guttural words. Without another glance at Matt, they turned and trotted away, hooves and boots making hollow sounds on the stone floor. Away from him, Matt shivered. Trollocs to the rescue. What had Matt gotten him into now? He saw what he had drawn with the wine, an open door, and scrubbed it out angrily. He had to get away from here. He had to. And he could also feel that urge in the back of his head that it was time to go back to the stone. He pushed it away angrily, but it kept buzzing at him. He caught a snatch of talk from the table to his right, with a lean-faced fellow with the curling mustache that was holding forth in a heavy Lugarder accent. Now, this dragon of yours is a great man, no doubt. I'll not be denying it. But he's not a patch on Loghain. Why, Loghain had all of Gilad on it war, and half of Amadisia and Altara as well. He made the earth swallow whole towns that resisted him, he did. Buildings, people and all entire. And the one up in Saldea, Masim, why, he made the sun sail till he defeated the Lord Bashir's army. 'Tis a fact, they do say. Matt shook his head. The stone fallen and Collindor in Rand's hand, and this idiot still thought he was another false dragon.
Then have a
He had sketched that doorway again.
so I can get a good
Rubbing a
picture.
hand through it, he grabbed the mug of wine, then
Nice
stopped
bowl
with it
over
halfway
there.
to his mouth. Through the commotion, his ear had picked out a familiar name spoken at a nearby table. Slipping back his bench, he made his mug in hand. The people around it were the sort of odd mixture made in taverns in the Mola. 2 barefoot sailors wearing oiled coats over bare chests, one with a thick gold chain close around his neck. A once fat man with sagging jowls and a dark Kyrianan coat with slashes of red and gold and green across his chest, which might have indicated that he was a noble, though one sleeve was torn at the shoulder. A good many Kyrianan refugees had come down far in the world. A
Hey,
gray-haired
Powwow
woman,
Bear,
all
how
in
you
subdued
doing, bro?
dark blue, with a hard face
Hope
and
you're
a sharp
doing well.
eye and heavy gold rings on her fingers. And the speaker, the fork-bearded fellow with a ruby size pigeon's leg in his ear. The 3 silver chains looped across the straining chest of his
Hey,
dark
Mad
reddish
Max, how
coat
you doing?
named him a Kandori master merchant.
Hope you're doing
They had
well.
a guild for merchants.
Oh, it's
in
going
Kandor.
pretty good. Can't complain.
The talk ceased and all eyes swung to Matt when he stopped at their table. I heard you mention the 2 rivers. Forkbeard ran a quick eye over him, the unbrushed hair, the tight expression on his face, and the wine in his fist, the gleaming black boots, the green coat with its gold scrollwork, open to the waist to reveal a snowy linen shirt. But both coat and shirt heavily wrinkled. In short, the very image of a young noble sporting himself among the commoners. I did, my lord, he said heartily. I was saying there'll be no tobacco out of there this year, I'll wager. I have 20 casks of 2 Rivers leaf, though, than which there is none finer. Fetch an excellent price later in the year, if my lord wishes a cask for his own stock. He tugged one point of his yellow beard and laid a finger alongside his nose. I am certain I could manage to. You'll wager that, will you? Matt said softly, cutting him short. Why would there be no tobacco out of the 2 rivers? Why, the white cloaks, my lord, the children of the light. What about the white cloaks? The master merchant peered around the table for help. There was a dangerous note in that quiet tone. The
Hell
sailors looked
yeah.
as if they would leave if they
Powwow
dared.
Bear.
The Kyrianan was glaring at
I'm
Matt,
not sure what
sitting
this
up too
one is.
straight and smoothing his worn coat as he swayed. The empty mug in front of him was obviously not his
But
first.
what I did a dab of
The
earlier, that
gray-haired
was some
woman held a
diamonds
mug
there.
to her mouth, her sharp eyes watching Matt over the rim in a calculating way.
Nice
Managing
little
a seated
cold
bow,
start.
the merchant put on an
What was
ingratiating
good
tone.
is all that amber stuff that's still in there.
That the white cloaks had
Since I
gone into the
did
2
a cold
rivers.
start, it didn't
Until
burn
the
it.
Dragon Reborn had
So I
sailed.
could actually
Of course, that
go
cannot be,
through
since the Lord
and
Dragon
just
is
lightly
his
heat it
sphere.
up again.
He eyed Matt to
And
see
I
how
better
Matt
do
would
another
take it.
dab.
Matt's face did not change. These rumors can run very wild, my lord. Perhaps it's only wind in a bucket. The same rumor claims the White Cloaks are after some dark friend with yellow eyes, too. Did you ever hear of a man with yellow eyes, my lord? No more have I. Wind in a bucket. Matt set his mug on the table and leaned closer to the man. Who else are they hunting, according to this rumor? The Dragon Reborn? The man with yellow eyes? Beads of sweat formed on the merchant's face. No one, my lord. No one that I heard. Only rumor, my lord. Straws in the wind, no more. A puff of smoke soon vanished. If I might have the honor of presenting my lord a cask of 2 Rivers tobacco, a gesture of appreciation. The honor of, to express my... Matt tossed an Andorran gold crown onto the table. Buy a drink on me till that runs out. As he turned away, he heard mutters from the table. I thought he'd cut my throat. You know these lordlings when they're full of wine. That from the fork-bearded merchant. An odd young man, the woman said. Dangerous. Do not try your ploys on that kind, patron. I do not think he is a lord at all, another man said petulantly. The Kyrianan, Matt supposed. His lip curled. A lord? He would not be a lord if it was offered to him. White cloaks in the 2 rivers. Light. Light, help us. Plowing his way to the door, he pulled a pair of wooden clogs from the pile against the wall. He had no idea they were the ones he had worn in. They all looked alike, and did not care. They fit his boots. It had started raining outside, a light fall that made the darkness that much deeper. Turning up his collar, he splashed along the muddy streets of the Mola in an awkward trot, past blaring taverns and well-lit inns and dark-windowed houses. When mud gave way to paving stones at the wall marking the inner city, he kicked the clogs off and left them lying as he ran on. The defenders guarding the nearest gate into the stone let him pass without a word. They knew who he was. He ran all the way to Perrin's room and flung open the door, barely noticing the splintered split in the wood. Perrin's saddlebags lay on the bed, and Perrin was stuffing shirts and stockings into them. There was only one candle lit, but he did not seem to notice the gloom. "You've heard, then," Matt said. Perrin went on with what he was doing. "About home? Yes. I went down to sniff out a rumor for Fail. After tonight, more than ever, I have to get her." The growl, deep in his throat, made Matt's hackles rise. It sounded like an angry wolf. "No matter. I heard. Maybe this will do as well." As well as what? Matt wondered. "You believe it?" For a moment, Perrin looked up. His eyes gathered the light of the candle, shining a burnished golden yellow. "There doesn't seem to be much doubt to me. It's all too close to the truth." Matt shifted uncomfortably. "Does Rand know?" Perrin only nodded and went back to his packing. "Well, what does he say?" Perrin paused, staring at the folded cloak in his hands. He started muttering to himself. "He said he'd do it. He said he would. I should have believed him. Like that. It made no sense. Then he grabbed me by the collar and said he had to do what they don't expect. I don't understand. But I'm not certain he does himself. He didn't seem to care whether I leave or stay. No, I take that back. I think he was relieved I'm leaving." "Boil it down, and he's not going to do anything," Matt said. "Light. With Collindor, he could blast 1,000 white cloaks. You saw what he did to those bloody Trollocs." "You're going, are you? Back to the Two Rivers? Alone?" "Unless you are coming too." Perrin stuffed the cloak into the saddlebags. "Are you?" Instead of answering, Matt paced back and forth, his face in half light and shadow by turns. His mother and father were in Emmonsfield, and his sisters. Whitecloaks had nowhere to hurt them. If he went home, he had the feeling he would never leave again. That his mother would marry him off before he could sit down. But if he did not go, if the Whitecloaks harmed them... All it took was rumor for Whitecloaks, so he had heard. But why should there be any rumor about them? Even the Coplans, liars and troublemakers to a man, liked his father. Everyone liked Abel Cawthon. "You don't have to," Perrin said quietly. "Nothing I heard mentioned you. Only Rand and me. Burn me, I will go." He could not say it. Thinking it was easy enough, but saying he would? His throat tightened up to strangle the words. "Is it easy for you, Perrin? Going, I mean. Don't you feel anything? Trying to hold you back? Telling you reasons you shouldn't go?" 100 of them, Matt. But I know it comes down to Rand and Taviran. You won't admit that, will you? 100 reasons to stay.
Definitely
One
gotta
reason to
shave.
go outweighs them. The Whitecloaks are in the Two Rivers, and they'll hurt people trying to find me. I can stop it if I go. Why should the Whitecloaks want you?
This is about as long as I let it get before
If you go asking for somebody
as you
with
guys can
yellow
tell,
eyes, nobody in Emmonsfield
starts
will know
getting
who
a
they're
little
talking
too
about.
itchy for me.
And how can you stop anything? One more pair of hands won't do much good. Ah! The Whitecloaks have bitten a mouthful of leather if they think they can push Two Rivers folk around. They know my name, Perrin said softly. His gaze swung to where his axe hung on the wall, the belt tied around the haft and the wall hook. Or maybe it was his hammer he was staring at, standing propped against the wall beneath the axe. Matt could not be sure. If they can find my family. As for why, they have their reasons, Matt, just as I have mine. Who can say who has the better? Burn me, Perrin. Burn me. I want to go. See? I can't even say it now. Like my head knows I'll do it if I say it. I can't even get it out in my mind. Different paths. We've been sent down different paths before. Different paths be bloodied, Matt grunted. I've had all I want of Rand and Aes Sedai shoving me down their bloody paths. I want to go what I want for a change. Do what I want. He turned for the door, but Perrin's voice halted him. I hope your path is a happy one, Matt. The light send you pretty girls and fools who want to gamble. Oh, burn me, Perrin. The light send you what you want to. I expect it will. He did not sound happy at the prospect. Will you tell my Da I'm all right? And my mother? She always did worry. And look after my sisters. They used to spy on me and tell Mother everything, but I wouldn't want anything to happen to them. I promise, Matt. Closing the door behind him, Matt wandered down the hallways aimlessly. His sisters. Eldrin and Bodwin had always been ready to run shouting, Mama, Matt's in trouble again. Matt's doing what he shouldn't, Mama. Especially Bode. They would be 16 and 17 now. Probably thinking of marriage before too much longer. Already with some dull farmer picked out, whether the fellow knew it or not. Had he really been gone that long? It did not seem so, sometimes. Sometimes he felt as if he had left Emmons Field just a week or two past. Other times it seemed years gone, only dimly remembered at all. He could remember Eldrin and Bode smirking when he had been switched, but their faces were no longer sharp. His own sisters' faces. These bloody holes in his memory, like holes in his life. He saw Berylane coming toward him and grinned in spite of himself. For all her airs, she was a fine figure of a woman. That clinging white silk was thin enough for a handkerchief, not to mention being scooped low enough at the top to expose a considerable amount of excellent pale bosom. He swept her his best bow, elegant and formal. A good evening to you, my lady. She started to sweep by without a glance, and he straightened angrily. Are you deaf as well as blind, woman? I'm not a carpet to walk over, and I distinctly heard myself speak. If I pinch your bottom, you can slap my face, but until I do, I expect a civil word for a civil word. The first stopped dead, eyeing him in that way women had. She could have sewn him a shirt and told his weight, not to mention when he had his last bath from that look. Then she turned away, murmuring something to herself. All he caught was, too much like me. He stared after her in amazement. Not a word to him. That face, that walk, and her nose so far in the air, it was a wonder her feet touched the ground. That was what he got, speaking to the likes of Berylane and Elaine. Nobles who thought you were dirt unless you had a palace and bloodlines backed Arthur Hawkwing. Well, he knew a plump cook's helper, just plump enough, who did not think he was dirt. Dara had a way of nibbling his ears that his thoughts stopped dead in their tracks. He had been considering seeing whether Dara was awakened up for a cuddle. He had even considered flirting with Berylane.
Right, how you doing,
And the last words
Matt
he had said to Perrin,
Organics?
look
Definitely
after my
appreciate you
sisters,
stopping by.
as if he had already decided.
That's a little bit of an
Already
earlier
knew what
live
to
than
do.
I usually do.
Only he
I
had
usually don't start till about 1, but
He would not so
kind of
easily,
started a little earlier
just
today.
sliding into it. There was
Hope
a
you're
way,
doing well, though,
perhaps.
Matt Organics.
Taking a gold coin from his pocket, he flipped it into the air and snatched it onto the back of his other hand. The
Alright, it's
Tarvalin
420
marked
somewhere.
himself the first time.
So I'm just
He
slowly
was staring
choking a
at the
ball.
flame of Tarvalin,
Buddy's got them
stylized
doing
like a teardrop.
a nice dab,
Burn
too.
all Aes Sedai, he announced loudly. And burn Randolph Thor for getting me into this. A black and gold liveried servant stopped in mid-stride,
Carb
staring
tat.
at him worriedly. The man's
Still almost
tray
like the
was piled
fluted
high
ones
with rolled
because I got
bandages and jars of ointment.
actually got a turk ball in there.
As soon as he realized Matt had seen him, he gave a jump. Matt tossed the gold mark onto the man's tray. From the biggest fool in the world. Mind you spend it well on women and wine. Thank you,
Oh,
my
shit.
lord, the man stammered, as if stunned. Matt left him standing
Oh,
there.
shit.
The biggest fool in the world. Aren't I just?
And 5:30 down.
Chapter 14.
That's crazy. Here it's
Customs of Mayenne.
12:53 in the morning.
Matt would have
Of Tuesday, pretty much.
Hammer as go back to the Two Rivers,
I reheat that little dab up I did since I did a cold start.
in which there was some way he could avoid going home too.
Yeah, but I like
There
it.
was no way.
And
It was a
like
fact
the
that
other
was
ones
hard as
that
iron and
are
must
usually
forgive.
made for the
The difference
turd
between
balls
Matt
to
and
spin,
himself
like the
was that he
fluted
was willing
ones.
to accept that,
Those are
even when
cool
he
and
did not
all.
want to.
They just
Easing his shirt
the
off
only thing I don't like
before
about
eyes.
them is they get
Careful
clogged
as
up
he could
real
be.
easy. At least if you dab a lot.
Bruise, already faded to browns and yellows, stained his entire left shoulder. A Trolloc had slipped past his axe. Only Fail's quick work of the knife had kept it from being more than it was. The shoulder made washing painful, but at least there was no worry about cold water in the air. He was packed and ready.
That's why I'm lightly reheated.
As soon as the sun rose, he would go
There
for
we
it
go.
more. But when he bothered the edge of the night. He was probably already in bed, where Perrin meant to be shortly. Fail was the only problem he had to deal with. Even staying in Tyr would be better for her than going with him. The door opened, so perfume wafted into him as soon as he it made him think of climbing flowers on a hot summer night. A tantalizing scent, not heavy, not to anyone but him, but nothing Fail would wear. Still, he was even more surprised when Berylane stepped into his room. Holding the edge of the door, she blinked, making him realize how dim the light must be for her. You are going?
And I always try to keep mine
It was difficult. Yes, my lady. Not smoothly, but as well. Fael could give all the sharp sniffs she wanted, but he saw no reason not to be polite.
I like at least try to keep mine clean just because it keeps your if it's dab rig, you have clean dabs if you're using it for to smoke your flour out of. Most definitely gotta keep your flour one clean, because if not, that shit starts tasting nasty.
A single candle flame was reflected in her dark eyes. After tonight, tomorrow I will leave by carriage for Godam, and from there take ship for Mayenne. I should have gone days ago. I thought there must be some way to work matters out. Only there wasn't, of course. I should have seen that. Tonight convinced me. The way he... all that lightning flowing down the halls. I will leave tomorrow.
My little bandana.
Why are you telling me? The way she tossed her head reminded him of a man sometimes shoot at Emmons Field. I would try to take a bite out of you. So you can tell the Lord Dragon, of course. That made no more sense to him. You can tell him yourself, he said, with more than a little exasperation. I've no time for carrying messages before I go. I do not think he would wish to see me. Any man would want to see her, and she was beautiful to look at. She knew both things. Started to say something else. Could she have been frightened by what had happened that night in Rand's bedchamber? Or the attack and the way Rand had ended it? Perhaps. But this was not a woman to frighten easily. Not from the cool way she was eyeing him.
And I've been
Give your message to a servant.
I haven't been doing my live at night either for about
before I leave.
maybe about 3-4 nights now.
Any servant will take a note.
I ran out of
It would
my
come
free
better
time
you,
from
a
StreamYards.
friend of the
Or,
Lord.
yeah,
Give it to a
StreamYards.
servant, or one of the Aiel.
Because you only get so much hours free a month, or
She asked
yeah, in a month
courteously.
period.
No. Haven't you been listening to me?
And I tend to run out of
She
those
tossed
like
her head
pretty
again,
quick.
But there was a difference this time. Though he could
Gotta
not say
eventually
what.
get
Studying him
the
thought
money
that she
together
never
to
have
do
herself. Such striking.
ready to do it monthly
What?
again.
Suddenly he realized he was standing there naked to the waist.
At least before my
Her
trip
intense
to
scrutiny abruptly seemed like the
to
study of a
Michigan.
horse before purchase. Next thing, she would be feeling his ankles and inspecting his teeth. He snatched the shirt meant for mourning from the bed and pulled it over his head.
I'm definitely going
Give
Going
your
to be able
message
to
to
need
a
to,
servant. I want to go to bed
need
now.
to
I mean to be
stream
up
them
early,
up there.
before sunrise. Where are you going tomorrow?
Mainly
Home.
so I can get
The
back.
Two Rivers. It is late. If you are leaving tomorrow too, I suppose you want to get some sleep. I know I'm tired. He yawned as widely as he could. She still made no move toward the door. You are a blacksmith. I have need of a blacksmith in Mayenne, making ornamental ironwork. A short stay before returning to the Two Rivers, you would find Mayenne entertaining. I am going home, he told her firmly, and you are going back to your own rooms. Her small shrug made him look away again hastily. Perhaps another day. I always get what I want in the end. And I think I want... She paused, eyeing him up and down. Ornamental ironwork for the windows of my bed chamber. She smiled so innocently that he felt alarm gongs sounding his head. The door opened again, and Fail came in. Perrin, I went into the city looking for you, and I heard a rumor... She stopped, stuck still, her eyes hard on Berlin. The first ignored her. Stepping close to Perrin, she ran a hand up his arm, across his shoulder. For an instant, he thought she meant to try pulling his head down for a kiss. She certainly lifted her face up as if for one. But she only trailed her hand along the side of his neck in a quick caress and stepped back. It was over and done before he could move to stop her. Remember, she said softly, as if they were alone, I always get what I want. And she swept past Fail and out of the room. He waited for an explosion from Fail, but she glanced at his stuffed saddlebags on the bed and said, I see you've heard the rumor already. It is only a rumor, Perrin. Yellow eyes make it more than that. She should have been erupting like a bundle of dry twigs tossed on a fire. Why was she so cool? Very well. Moraine is the next problem, then. Will she try to stop you? Not if she doesn't know. If she tries, I will go anyway. I have family and friends, Fail. I won't leave them to White Cloaks. But I hope to keep it from her until I'm well out of the city. Even her eyes were calm, like dark pools in the forest. It made his hackles rise. But it had to take weeks for that rumor to reach Tyr, and it will take weeks more to ride to the Two Rivers. The White Cloaks could be gone by then. I've been wanting you to leave here. I should not complain. I just want you to know what to expect. It won't take weeks by the ways, he told her. 2 days,
Be
maybe
right
3.
back.
2 days. He supposed there was no means to make it faster. You are as mad as Randall Thor, she said disbelievingly. Dropping on the foot of his bed, she folded her legs crosswise and addressed him in a voice suitable for lecturing children. Go into the ways, and you come out hopelessly mad. If you come out at all, which is most likely you will not. The ways are tainted, Perrin. They have been dark for, what, 300 years? 400? Ask Loyal. He could tell you. It was Ogiers built the ways, or grew them, or whatever it was. Not even they used the ways. Why, even if you managed to make it through them unscathed, the light alone knows where you would come out. I have traveled them by you. And a frightening trip it had been, too. Loyal can guide me. He can read the guideposts. That's how we went before. He will do it for me again when he knows how important it is. Loyal was eager to be away from Tyr 2. He seemed to be afraid that his mother knew where he was. Perrin was sure he would help. Well, she said, rubbing her hands together briskly. Well, I wanted adventure, and this is certainly it. Leaving the Stone of Tyr and the Dragon Reborn, traveling the ways to find White Cloaks. I wonder whether we can persuade Tom Maryland to come along. If we cannot have a bard, a gleeman will do. He could compose the story, And you and I the heart of it. No dragon reborn or Aes Sedai about to swallow up the tail. When do we leave? In the morning? He took a deep breath to steady his voice. I will be going alone, Faye. Just Loyal and me. We will need a pack horse, she said, as if he had not spoken. 2, I think. The ways are dark. We will need lanterns and plenty of oil. You're 2 Rivers people. Farmers? Will they fight White Cloaks? Faile, I said. I heard what you said, she snapped. Shadows gave her a dangerous look, with her tilted eyes and high cheekbones. I heard, and it makes no sense. What if these farmers won't fight, or don't know how? Who is going to teach them? You? Alone? I will do what has to be done, he said patiently. Without you. She bounced to her feet so fast he thought she was coming for his throat. Do you think Berelain will go with you? Will she guard your back? Or perhaps you prefer her to sit on your lap and squeal? Tuck your shirt in, you hairy oaf. Does it have to be so dark in here? Berelain likes dim light, does she? Much good she will do you against the children of the light. Perrin opened his mouth to protest and changed what he had been going to say. She looks a pleasant armful, Berelain. What man wouldn't want her on his lap? The hurt on her face banded his chest with iron, but he made himself go on. When I am done at home, I may go to Mayenne. She asked me to come, and I might. Faile said not a word. She stared at him with a face like stone, then whirled and ran out, slamming the door behind her with a crash. In spite of himself, he started to follow, then stopped with his hands gripping the door frame till his fingers hurt. Staring at the splintered gash his axe had made in the door, he found himself telling it what he could not tell her. I killed White Cloaks. They would have killed me if I hadn't. But they still call it murder. I'm going home to die, Faile. That's the only way I can stop them hurting my people. Let them hang me. I cannot let you see that. I can't. You might even try to stop it, and then they'd... His head dropped against the door. She would not be sorry to see the last of him now. That was what was important. She would go find her adventure somewhere else, safe from White Cloaks and ta'veren and bubbles of evil. That was all that was important. He wished he did not want to howl with grief.
Faile strode through the halls at a near run, oblivious of who she passed or who had to scramble out of her way. Perrin, Berelain, Perrin, Berelain. He wants a milk-faced vixen who runs about half-naked, does he? He doesn't know what he wants. Hairy lummox, wooden-headed buffoon, blacksmith, and that sneaking sow Berelain, that prancing she-goat. She did not realize where she was going until she saw Berelain ahead of her, gliding along in that dress that left nothing to the imagination, swaying along as if that walk of hers was not deliberately calculated to make male eyes pop. Before Faile knew what she was doing, she had darted ahead of Berelain and turned to face her where 2 corridors met. Perrin Aybara belongs to me, she snapped. You keep your hands and your smiles away from him. She flushed to her hairline when she heard what she had said. She had promised herself she would never do this, never fight over a man like a farm girl rolling in the dirt at harvest. Berelain arched a cool eyebrow. Belongs to you. Strange. I saw no collar on him. You serving girls. Or are you a farmer's daughter? You have the most peculiar ideas. Serving girl? Serving girl? I am... Faile bit her tongue to stop the furious words. The first of Mayenne, indeed. There were estates in Saldaea larger than Mayenne. She would not last a week in the courts of Saldaea. Could she recite poetry while hawking? Could she ride in the hunt all day, then play the cittern at night while discussing how to counter Trolloc raids? She thought she knew men, did she? Did she know the language of fans? Could she tell a man to come or go or stay and 100 things more, all with the twist of a wrist and the placement of a lace fan? Light shine on me. What am I thinking? I swore I would never even hold the fan again. But there were other Saldaean customs. She was surprised to see the knife in her hand. She'd been taught not to draw a knife unless she meant to use it. Farm girls in Saldaea have a way of dealing with women who poach others' men. If you do not swear to forget, Perine Bara, I will shave your head as bald as an egg. Perhaps the boys who tend the chickens will pant after you then. She was not sure exactly how Berelaine gripped her wrist, but suddenly she was flying through the air. The floor crashing into her back drove all the air from her lungs. Berelaine stood smiling, tapping the blade of Fail's knife on her palm. A custom of Mayenne. The Tyrants do like to use assassins, and the guards cannot always be close at hand. I despise being attacked, farm girl, so this is what I will do. I will take the blacksmith away from you and keep him as a pet, for as long as he amuses me. Ogier's oath on it, farm girl. He is quite ravishing, really. Those shoulders, those arms, not to mention those eyes of his. And if he is a bit uncultured, I can have that remedied. My courtiers can teach him how to dress, and rid him of that awful beard. Wherever he goes, I will find him and make him mine. You can have him when I'm finished, if he still wants you, of course. Finally managing to draw breath, Fail struggled to her feet, pulling a second knife. I will drag you to him after I cut off those clothes you were almost wearing, and make you tell him you are nothing but a sow. Light help me. I am behaving like a farm girl, and talking like one. The worst part was that she meant it. Berelaine set herself warily. She meant to use her hands, obviously, not the knife. She held it like a fan. Fail advanced on the balls of her feet. Suddenly, Ruark was there between them, towering over them, snatching the knives away before either woman was really aware of him. Have you not seen enough blood already tonight? He said coldly. Of all those I thought I might find breaking the peace, the two of you would be the last named. Fail gaped at him. With no warning, she pivoted, driving her fist toward Ruark's short ribs. The toughest man would feel it there. He seemed to move without looking at her,
Right
caught her
back,
hand,
everyone.
forced her arm straight to her side, twisted. Abruptly, she was standing very straight, and hoping he did not push her arm right up out of her shoulder. As if nothing had happened, he addressed Berelaine. You will go to your room, and you will not come out until the sun is above the horizon. I will see that no breakfast is brought to you. A little hunger will remind you that there is a time and place for fighting. Berelaine drew herself up indignantly. I am the first of Mayenne. I will not be ordered about like you will go to your rooms. Now, Ruark told her flatly. Fail wondered if she could kick him. She must have tensed, because as soon as she thought of it, he increased the pressure on her wrist and she was up on her tiptoes. If you do not, he went on to Berelaine, we will repeat our first talk together, you and I. Right here. Berelaine's face went white and red by turns. Very well, she said stiffly. If you insist, I will perhaps... I did not propose a discussion. If I can still see you when I have counted 3. 1. With a gasp, Berelaine hiked her skirts and ran. She even managed to sway doing that. Fail stared after her in amazement. It was almost worth having her arm nearly disjointed. Ruark was watching Berelaine go, too, a small, appreciative smile on his lips. Do you mean to hold me all night? She demanded. He released her and tucked her knives into his belt. Those are mine. Forfeit, he said. Berelaine's punishment for fighting was to have you see her sent to bed like a willful child. Yours is to lose these knives you prize. I know you have others. If you argue, I might take those, too. I will not have the peace broken. She glared at him, but she suspected he meant just what he said. Those knives had been made for her by a man who knew what he was doing. The balance was just right. What first talk did you have with her? Why did she run like that? That is between her and me. You will not go near her again, Fail. I do not believe she started this. That one's weapons are not knives. If either of you makes trouble again, I will put both of you to carrying offal. Some of the tyrants thought they could keep on fighting their duels after I had declared peace on this place, but the smell of the refuse carts soon taught them their mistake. Be sure you do not have to learn it the same way. She waited until he had gone before nursing her shoulder. He reminded her of her father. Not that her father had ever twisted her arm, but he had small patience with those who made trouble, whatever their position, and no one ever caught him by surprise. She wondered if she could bait Berylane into something, just to see the first of Mayenne sweating among the refuse carts. But Roark had said both of them. Her father meant what he said, too. Berylane. Something Berylane had said was tickling the back of her mind. Ogier's oath. That was it. An Ogier never broke an oath. To say Ogier Oathbreaker was like saying brave coward or wise fool. She could not help laughing aloud. You will take him from me, you silly peahen. By the time you see him again, if you ever do, he'll be mine once more. Chuckling to herself and occasionally rubbing her shoulder, she walked on with a light heart.
Chapter 15. Into the doorway. Holding the glass-mantled lamp high, Matt peered down the narrow corridor, deep in the belly of the stone. Not unless my life depended on it. That's what I promised. Well, burn me if it doesn't. Before doubt could seize him again, he hurried on, past doors, dry-rotted and hanging aslant, past others, only shreds of wood clinging to rusted hinges. The floor had been swept recently, but the air still smelled of old dust and mold. Something skittered in the darkness, and he had a knife out before he realized it was just a rat, running from him, no doubt running towards some escape hole it knew. "Show me the way out," he whispered after it, "and I'll come with you." Why am I whispering? There's nobody down here to hear me. It seemed a place for quiet, though. He could feel the whole weight of the stone over his head pressing down. The last door, she had said. That one hung askew, too. He kicked it open, and it fell apart. The room was littered with dim shapes, with crates and barrels and things stacked high against the walls and out into the floor. Dust, too. The great hold. It looks like the basement of an abandoned farmhouse, only worse. He was surprised that Egwene and Nynaeve had not dusted and tidied while they were down here. Women were always dusting and straightening, even things that did not need it. Footprints crisscrossed the floor, some of them from boots, but no doubt they had had men to shift the heavier items about for them. Nynaeve liked finding ways to make a man work. Likely she had deliberately hunted out some fellows enjoying themselves. What he sought stood out among the jumble. A tall, redstone door frame, looming oddly in the shadows cast by his lamp. When he came closer, it still looked odd. Twisted somehow. His eye did not want to follow it around. The corners did not join right. The tall, hollow rectangle seemed likely to fall over at a breath. But when he gave it an experimental push, it stood steady. He pushed a bit harder, not sure he did not want to heave the thing over. That side of it scraped through the dust. Goosebumps ran down his arm. There might as well have been a wire fastened to the top, suspending it from the ceiling. He held the lamp up to see. There was no wire. At least it won't topple while I'm inside. Light, I am going inside, aren't I? A clutter of figurines and small things wrapped in rotting cloth occupied the top of a tall, upended barrel near him. He pushed the jumble to one side so he could set the lamp there and studied the doorway. The Tir Angrial. If Egwene knew what she was talking about. She probably did. No doubt she had learned all sorts of strange things in the tower, however much she denied. She would deny things, wouldn't she now? Learning to be Aes Sedai. She didn't deny this, though, now, did she? If he squinted, it just looked like a stone doorframe, dully polished, and the duller for dust. Just a plain doorframe. Well, not entirely plain. 3 sinuous lines carved deep in the stone ran down each upright from top to bottom. He had seen fancier on farmhouses. He would probably step through and find himself still in this dusty room. Won't know till I try, will I? Luck. Taking a deep breath and coughing from the dust, he put his foot through. He seemed to be stepping through a sheet of brilliant white light, infinitely bright, infinitely thick. For a moment that lasted forever, he was blind. A roaring filled his ears, all the sounds of the world gathered together at once. For just the length of one measureless step. Stumbling another pace, he stared around in amazement. The Tirangrial was still there, but this was certainly not where he had started. The twisting stone doorframe, with a ceiling so high it was surrounded by strange, silent, columns snaking up into the ground. Huge vines, twining round poles, and away. A soft light came from glowing spheres on coiled stands of some white metal. Not silver. The shine was too dull for that. And no hint of what made the glow. It did not look like flame. The spheres simply shone. The floor tiles spiraled out in white and yellow stripes from the Tirangrial.
That's better.
There was a heavy scent in the air, sharp and dry, and not particularly pleasant. He almost turned around and went back on the spot. A long time. He jumped, a knife coming into his hand, and peered about the source of the breathy voice that pronounced those words so harshly. A long time, yet the seekers come again for answers. The questioners come once more. A shape moved back among the columns. A man, Matt thought. Good, you have brought no lamps, no torches, as the agreement was, and is, and ever will be. You have no iron, no instruments of music. The figure stepped out, tall, barefoot, arms and legs and body wound about in layers of yellow cloth, and Matt was suddenly not sure if it was a man, or human. It looked human at first glance, though perhaps too graceful, but it seemed far too thin for its height, with a narrow, elongated face. Its skin, and even its straight black hair, caught the pale light in a way that reminded him of a snake's scales. And those eyes, just black vertical slits. No, not human. Iron, instruments of music. You have none. Matt wondered what it thought the knife was. It certainly did not seem concerned over it. Well, the blade was good steel, not iron. No iron, and no instruments of... Why? He cut off sharply. 3 questions, Egwene had said. He was not about to waste one on iron or instruments of music. Why should he care if I have a dozen musicians in my pocket and a smithy on my back? I have come here for true answers. If you are not the one to give them, take me to who can. The man, it was male at least, Matt decided, smiled slightly. He did not show any teeth. According to the agreement, come. He beckoned with one long-fingered hand. Follow. Matt made the knife disappear up his sleeve. Lead and I will follow. Just you keep ahead of me and in plain sight. This place makes my skin crawl. There was not a straight line to be seen anywhere except for the floor itself as he trailed the strange man. Even the ceiling was always arched and the walls bowed out. The halls were continuously curved, the doorways rounded, the windows perfect circles. Tile work made spirals and sinuous lines, and what seemed to be bronze metalwork set in the ceiling at intervals was all complicated scrolls. There were no pictures of anything, no wall hangings or paintings, only patterns and always curves. He saw no one except his silent guide. He could have believed the place empty except for the 2 of them. From somewhere he had a dim memory of walking halls that had not known a human foot in hundreds of years, and this felt the same. but sometimes he caught a flicker of motion out of the corner of his eye. Only, however quickly he turned, there was never anyone there. He pretended to rub his forearms, checking the knives up his coat sleeves for reassurance. What he saw through those round windows was even worse. Tall, wispy trees with only a drooping umbrella of branches at the top, and others like huge fans of lacy leaves, a tangle of growth equal to the heart of any briar-choked thicket, all under a dim, overcast light, though there did not seem to be a cloud in the sky. There were always windows, always along just one side of the curving corridor. Sometimes the side changed, and what surely should have been looking into courtyard or rooms, instead gave out into that forest. He never caught as much as a glimpse of any other part of this palace, or whatever it was, through those windows, or any other building, except... Through one circular window he saw 3 tall silvery spires curving in toward each other, so their points all aimed at the same spot. They were not visible from the next window, 3 paces away, but a few minutes later, after he and his guide had rounded enough curves that he had to be looking in another direction, he saw them again. He tried telling himself these were 3 different spires, but between them and him was one of those fan-shaped trees with a dangling broken branch, the tree that had been in the same spot the first time. After his third sight of the spires and the strange tree with the broken branch, this time 10 paces farther on, but on the other side of the hallway, he tried to stop looking at what lay outside at all. The walk seemed interminable. When... Matt ground his teeth. 3 questions. It was hard to learn anything without asking questions. I hope you are taking me to those who can answer my questions. Burn my bones, I do. For my sake and yours, the light know it true. Here, the peculiar yellow-wrapped fellow said, gesturing with one of those thin hands to a rounded doorway twice as large as any Matt had seen before. His strange eyes studied Matt intently. His mouth gaped open, and he inhaled, long and slow. Matt frowned at him, and the stranger gave a writhing hitch of his shoulders. Here your answers may be found. Enter. Enter and ask. Matt drew a deep breath of his own, then grimaced and scrubbed at his nose. That sharp, heavy smell was a rank nuisance. He took a hesitant step toward the tall doorway and looked around for his guide again. The fellow was gone. Light. I don't know why anything in this place surprises me now. Well, I will be burned if I'll turn back now. Trying not to think of whether he could find the Tirangrial again on his own, he went in. It was another round room with spiraling floor tiles in red and white under a domed ceiling. It had no columns or furnishings of any kind, except for 3 thick, coiled pedestals around the heart of the floor's spirals. Matt could see no way to reach the top of them except by climbing the twists. Yet a man like his guide sat cross-legged atop each, only wrapped in layers of red. Not all men, he decided at a second look. 2 of those long faces with the odd eyes had a definite feminine cast. They stared at him, intense, penetrating stares, and breathed deeply, almost panting. He wondered if he had made them nervous in some way. Not much bloody chance of that. But they're certainly getting under my coat. It has been long, the woman on the right said. Very long, the woman on the left added. The man nodded. Yet they come again. All 3 had the breathy voice of the guide, almost indistinguishable from it, in fact, and the harsh way of pronouncing words. They spoke in unison, and the words might as well have come from one mouth. Enter and ask, according to the agreement of old. If Matt had thought his skin crawled before, now he was sure it was writhing. He made himself go closer. Carefully, careful to say nothing that even sounded like a question, he laid the situation before them. The White Cloaks, certainly in his home village, surely hunting friends of his, maybe hunting him. One of his friends going to face the White Cloaks, another not. His family, not likely in danger, but with the bloody children of the bloody light around. A Ta'veren pulling at him so he could hardly move. He saw no reason to give names or mention that Rand was the Dragon Reborn. His first question, and the other two for that matter, he had worked out before going down to the Great Hold. "Should I go home to help my people?" he asked finally. 3 sets of slitted eyes lifted from him, reluctantly it seemed, and studied the air above his head. Finally, the woman on the left said, "You must go to Rudian." As soon as she spoke, their eyes all dropped to him again, and they leaned forward, breathing deeply again. But at that moment, a bell tolled, a sonorous, brazen sound that rolled through the room. They swayed upright, staring at one another, then at the air over Matt's head again. "He is another," the woman on the left whispered. "The strain, the strain, the saber," the man said. "It has been long." "There is yet time," the other woman told them. She sounded calm, they all did, but there was a sharpness to her voice when she turned back to Matt. "Ask, ask." Matt glared up at them furiously. Rudian, light. That was somewhere out their waist. The light in the Aiel knew where. That was about as much as it waste. Anger drove questions about how to get away from Aes Sedai and how to recover the lost parts of his memory right out of his head. "Rudian," he barked. "The light burned my bones to ash if I want to go to Rudian. And my blood on the ground if I will. Why should I? You are not answering my questions. You are supposed to answer, not hand me riddles." "If you do not go to Rudian," the woman on the right said, "you will die." The bell tolled again, louder this time. Matt felt its tremor through his boots. The looks the 3 shared were plainly anxious. He opened his mouth, but they were only concerned with each other. "The strain," one of the women said hurriedly. "It is too great." "The savor of him," the other woman said on her heels. "It has been so very long." Before she was done, the man spoke. "The strain is too great, too great. Ask, ask." "Burn your soul for a craven heart," Matt growled. "I will that. Why will I die if I do not go to Rudian? I very likely will die if I try. It makes no..." The man cut him off and spoke hurriedly. "You will have sidestepped the thread of fate. Let your fate to drift on the winds of time. And you will be killed by those who do not want that fate fulfilled. Now go. You must go. Quickly." The yellow-clad guide was suddenly there at Matt's side, tugging at his sleeve with those 2 long hands. Matt shook him off. "No, I will not go. You have led me from the questions I wanted to ask and given me senseless answers. You will not leave it there." "What fate are you talking about?" "I will have one clear answer out of you at least." A third time the bell sounded mournfully, and the entire room trembled. "Go," the man shouted. "You have had your answers. You must go before it is too late." Abruptly, a dozen of the yellow-clad men were around Matt, seeming to appear out of the air, trying to pull him toward the door. He fought with fists, elbows, knees. "What fate? Burn your heart! What fate?" It was the room itself that pealed, the walls and floor quivering, nearly taking Matt and his attackers off their feet. "What fate?" The 3 were on their feet atop the pedestals, and he could not tell which shrieked which answer. "To marry the daughter of the 9 moons, to die and live again, and live once more a part of what was, to give up half the light of the world to save the world." Together they howled like steam escaping under pressure. "Go to Rudian, son of battles! Go to Rudian, trickster! Go, Gamla, go!" Matt's assailants snatched him into the air by his arms and legs and ran, holding him over their heads. "Unhand me, you white-livered sons of goats!" he shouted, struggling. "Burn your eyes! The shadow take your souls! Loose me! I will have your guts for a saddle girth!" But writhe and curse as he would, those long fingers gripped like iron. Twice more the bell tolled, or the palace did. Everything shook as in an earthquake. The walls rang with deafening reverberations, each louder than the last. Matt's captors stumbled on, nearly falling, but never stopping their pell-mell race. He did not even see where they were taking him until they suddenly stopped short, heaving him into the air. Then he saw the twisted doorway, the ter'angreal, as he flew toward it. White light blinded him. The roar filled his head till it drove thought away. He fell heavily onto a dusty floor in dim light and rolled up against the barrel holding his lamp in the great hold. The barrel rocked, packets and figurines toppling to the floor in a crash of breaking stone and ivory and porcelain. Bounding to his feet, he threw himself back at the stone doorframe. "Burn you! You can't throw me!" He hurtled through and stumbled against the crates and barrels on the other side. Without a pause, he turned and leaped at it again, with the same result. This time he caught himself on the barrel holding his lamp, which nearly fell onto the already shattered things littering the floor under his boots. He grabbed it in time, burning his hand, and fumbled it back to a steadier perch. "Burn me if I want to be down here in the dark," he thought, sucking his fingers. Like the way my luck was running, it probably would have started a fire and I would have burned to death. He glared at the ter'angreal. Why was it not working? Maybe the folk on the other side had shut it off somehow. He understood practically nothing of what had happened. That bell and their panic. He would have thought they were afraid the roof would come down on their heads. Come to think of it, it very nearly had. And Rudion, and all the rest of it. The waste was bad enough, but they said he was fated to marry somebody called the Daughter of the Nine Moons. Marry? And to a nobleman by the sound of it. He would sooner marry a pig than a noblewoman. And that business about dying and living again. Nice of them to add the last bit. If some black-veiled Aielman killed him on the way to Rudion, he would find out how true it was. It was all nonsense, and he did not believe a word of it. Only the bloody doorway had taken him somewhere, and they had only wanted to answer 3 questions, just the way Egwene had said. "I won't marry any bloody noblewoman," he told the ter'angreal. "I'll marry when I'm too old to have any fun, that's what. Rudion, my bloody—" A boot appeared, backing out of the twisted stone doorway, followed by the rest of Rand, with that fiery sword in his hands. The blade vanished as he stepped clear, and he heaved a sigh of relief. Even in the dim light, I could see he was troubled, though. He gave a start when he saw Matt. "Just poking around, Matt? Or did you go through too?" Matt eyed him warily for a moment. At least that sword was gone. He did not seem to be channeling, though how was anybody to tell? And he did not look particularly like a madman. In fact, he looked very much as Matt remembered. He had to remind himself they were not back home any longer, and Rand was not what he remembered. "Oh, I went through all right. A bunch of bloody liars, if you ask me. What are they? Made me think of snakes." "Not liars, I think." Rand sounded as if he wished they were. "No, not that. They were afraid of me right from the first. And when that tolling started, the sword kept them back. They wouldn't even look at it. Shied away. Hid their eyes." "Did you get your answers?" "Nothing that makes sense," Matt muttered. "What about you?" Suddenly, Moiraine appeared from the ter'angreal, seeming to step gracefully out of thin air, flowing out. She would be a fine one to dance with if she were not Aes Sedai. Her mouth tightened at the sight of them. You were both in there? That is why." She made a vexed hiss. "One of you would have been bad enough, but 2 Ta'veren at once? You might have torn the connection entirely and been trapped there. Wretched boys playing with things you do not know the danger of. Perrin, is Perrin in there too? Did he share your exploit?" "The last I saw Perrin," Matt said, "he was getting ready to go to bed." Maybe Perrin would give him the lie by being the next to step out of the thing, but he might as well deflect the Aes Sedai's anger if he could. No need for Perrin to face it too. Maybe he'll make it clear to her at least, if he gets away before she knows what he's doing. Bloody woman. I'll wager she was noble born.
You're right, everyone. Probably a call
Moiraine was
into
angry,
this
there was no
life right
doubt.
now.
The blood had drained out of her cheeks and her
See if I can't lay down and get some sleep. But I want to thank everyone who stopped by and everyone keeps coming and chilling with me. Definitely appreciate all y'all's support. Till next time, everyone, stay safe out there.